Stroud's kind of our closer for tonight, and Stroud's going to really get down to talking about some specific transformational things that were done in Chattanooga that I think to any casual observer you would start on this assignment and say there's no way we'll get these kinds of things done. But over a long period of time and through a lot of dedicated leadership, Stroud being one of the principal players, Chattanooga has achieved some pretty remarkable things, both with their public realm as well as their general city. So I wanted Stroud to share some of those case study accomplishments and give a little insight into the leadership and some of the functions that occurred in order to make those things happen. So, Stroud Watson.
Well, what a joy to be in a room with people that are already embracing the public realm. And well, you should. It's your living room. It is the place that everybody understands your city from, that you communicate with other people in, and that you share the common values and the common notions about the community. It's the most important thing you can do. I spent 10 years in England before I came back to America. I thought before I left. And I was building, designing, planning, and building a new town that created 10,000 people a year. All the streets, squares, parks, plazas, schools, sewers, houses, jobs. And I learned in that process that you can and must design your culture. It just can't happen. And that's basically what music does. Because really, when you come right down to it, the public realm is all of that space in the city that isn't privately owned. We want to just make a simple statement. And the private land can do what it wants to do. So I came back to America in 1979 at a time when most schools didn't even have a program in urban design or even knew how to spell it in case it didn't escape. So I got an opportunity which was absolutely incredible. And it came out of my understanding that I'm going to come back to America and connect teaching at a university with working and teaching a community about what it means to design your community, design your streets, your squares, your parks, your plazas, everything that adds up to make your place special and make it yours. Lenders Foundation in Chattanooga was the only people that came forward and said, we'd like to try that. We're beginning to recognize that our community has to and is changing. We were going from Chattanooga had been a very heavy industrial, small town, yes, built a lot of heavy industry, and lost it after the war. And by 1979, it was just gradually beginning to find its way. And didn't know where it was going by a long shot. And it started to clean up its air, but not much else. So there we are. I get this opportunity to teach at the University of Tennessee and to work with the city of Chattanooga. So I come down looking about like I do now, not quite as white. But I come down with my students and I start doing things. And you start doing things in a place that you've got to understand. You first have to really understand your city, and you are going way beyond the bounds of most communities in trying to do that. And you're starting from the right place. You're looking at what is meaningful to everybody in the community, not just to a project or just a building or even a park. You're looking at the whole connected tissue. This was the basic bones of Chattanooga. And these bones are good bones. It's on a river, it's in a valley, and it reached down down the river in a very meaningful way. And that, in fact, that yellowish tone, I don't know what shows up there, yellow, that's your public realm. You add to it parks and plazas, and that's what it is that we're talking about. The first thing that we did, and it took some time to do it, and we had some meetings like this, but they were very small. Mind you, I just had 6th grade students and me, and we were in a little 20 by 40 shop on Vine Street with a wood-burning stove. And it was great. People came in, and we started talking about the city. We did a lot of study about the streets, about the buildings, about the history of place, about how it formed itself. Because every decision, I believe this really strongly, and I want to pass it on anytime I get the chance, that every decision that's taken has to be taken with a thorough understanding of the history of place, the past. A critical and strong position taken on where we are now. And then add to that the future, which will make a better place for all people. So we have to have all that information in front of us, and that's what we began with in the studio. And I'll go back to one thing on that. Out of that particular study, we had a possibility of giving to the city a basic direction. I mean, you could give a lot of things, but basic, I think you have to come down and say, there are a few things you really have to do. And what we decided very early on is the city must have a center. There was an obvious place where that center was, but you didn't know it. And it had abandoned the river. And you had to come back and connect it. The first real opportunity that came up about 2 years after I was there was actually the river. And I'm sharing this story because I think it's important on a bigger scale. The city, the county, and the state owned 700 acres of land, and they suddenly decided they wanted to do something with it, and they formed a public task force to look at it, and they asked me to help them with that. And first thing I said to them is, if you start developing that, you're going to take opportunities away from downtown, which is what you need more than anything. You've got all sorts of space down there. You've got parking lots coming out the ears, you've got space all over the place, you have no definition. But more importantly, what I said to them is you never look at an individual thing. If you're looking on the edge of the river, look at the whole river. Look from the Marion County line to your left, to the Chickamauga Dam. Let's develop a plan for the whole of the river and develop principles to develop from. And those principles were basically three things. The city hadn't done it all. First of all the meetings, just like this one, for that riverfront study were public. They'd never done that in Chattanooga in 1981. We proposed a plan, have a plan, and we will guarantee that that plan will produce $750 million worth of development in 25 years. Pretty big statement for a group of people to make, and we passed that in about 8, but that's another story. Most importantly, the river belongs to everybody. And that means access on every foot of that river should be made public. And we began a riverwalk system, which is still growing today. So that's a very simple little story that's very, very important. The figure ground drawing is the most fundamental way to look at what is your public realm. The thing, of course, that comes out in many, many cities, a lot of this open space are parking lots. But here again, the two fundamental ideas that came out of the original study, the center of the city in red and the river in blue. And we went about trying to explain through demonstration, making visible to the community what it it would mean to do something to those places. What are the ways it could look? And this is the wonderful thing about students and a place where people can come and visit you all the time. They come in and see what you're doing. And the different attitudes and the different ways you can go back, because there are a million ways to skin a cat. But most people don't know any. And a lot of the ones that do know something do the wrong thing. So try to get out in front of them as much up